On today's Technique Tuesday, I'm going to be looking at the deadlift technique of Barry. For a bit of context, which I think is always important, this is 150 kilos on the bar, and Barry reckons he can do this for 2 reps. So just looking at firstly the setup position. So the first thing to notice is that when Barry grabs the bar is clearly ahead of his mid-foot. So if we just draw a couple of lines on, so ideally this bar should be going, when he's in his set position, the bar should be going through the middle of his foot. Now just based on what I can see from the footage, I'd probably estimate his mid-foot's probably about there. So the reason why this is important is because obviously any distance that the bar is forward of the midfoot is extra distance the bar has to travel between breaking it off the floor and of course locking it out. So we're effectively giving ourselves more work to do by setting up with the bar in front of the midfoot. Now it's important to note that as I play the footage on, you'll see that Barry naturally pulls the bar backwards in towards him. However, if we want to be as efficient as possible, we want to eliminate any unnecessary movement of the barbell. Now this could be due to mobility restrictions, because for example, if you're there's restrictions in the posterior chain, so hamstrings, calves, then of course this setup position where the weight is in line with your midfoot is going to be definitely more problematic. A quick test, or quick way you can test this, is by using the active straight leg raise, which I've got a video of on my YouTube channel. So let's clear those lines, and the first thing you'll notice is the first movement that occurs is Barry shifts the barbell backwards. So if I just, for example, pause that for a second, let's just put a dot on where the bar is at the moment, and then play this footage through. And you'll see that the first movement initiated is Barry bringing the bar back in towards him, which again makes intuitive. So he's just seen a rock back there. You'll also see Barry's spine wants to move before the barbell's moved. Okay, so we pause it there. Barry's starting to break the bar off of the floor. He's starting to move his spine, but the bar is not yet coming off the floor at the same speed at which his spine is moving. So you see that slightly backwards movement of the barbell if we look at where the red dot is. And then as we let this play out, again, the bending of the spine starts to worsen. You'll also notice, as you see, the first movement is backwards. The interesting thing is, I would also say that Barry's not really taking the tension out of the bar. So what I mean by this is you and the bar need to be one piece. That means when the barbell moves, you are moving as well and at the same time. We're not moving our spine or our body before we're breaking the bar off the floor. So as this continues, you'll see that this flexion or this bending of the spine continues to worsen. And here, Barry obviously has probably a stronger back relative to his hamstrings because his back is taking a lot of the work. And here, it's pretty much a stiff leg deadlift equivalent. What's actually really nice is if you look at the yellow stripe on Barry's t-shirt, that gives us a nice little marker. So if I can somehow rewind this, so let's take the play off, or I'll just end up zipping this back to the start, is what we want, and what's really good from these yellow marks is what we want to see is almost that kind of angle. So our chest is up. This is going to reduce the distance to lockout, and it's also going to make us more efficient. However, if we look at Barry's starting position, so that's the angle we would probably want to see on Barry's t-shirt. So let's just change the lines to make that super obvious. So that's the angle we probably want to see. However, what we end up seeing is something more like this. So obviously Barry's chest is facing the floor, which means that he can't use the strength from his body in an efficient way. So as this comes up, you can just see that Barry ends up in this position here where he's almost folded over by the weight. Now, obviously, when it gets heavy, naturally your body's going to do whatever it can to get the weight up, but we want that to be as efficient as possible, especially when we're going down at lighter loads. So key things for Barry, hopefully this clip will let me repeat. So the first thing is assess the hamstring mobility so that we can ideally get into a position more like this, rather than one where we're almost folded over. So firstly, can we lift that chest up? Think about pushing the chest up. Think about almost gripping and ripping the bar. So we're trying to snap it in two. So we've got a bit of tension off the floor. And then once we've got that set position, when we start filming lifts, we can make sure the bar comes straight up first, not back towards us. So the bar, when we're in our start position, as soon as it touches the shins, then we should be locking the tension into the bar, and then we should be effectively trying to push the floor away with our feet and push our chest out as we stand up with it. There should be a simultaneous movement of the bar and the chest rising as one. So key recommendations that I would look for is firstly, assess hamstring mobility with the active straight leg raise. Secondly, use a movement called the Romanian deadlift to get some flexibility and some mobility in the hamstrings. And finally, playing about with something called a pause deadlift. So with the pause deadlift, you can pause at many places, but what I like to do is pause as soon as the bar's off the floor. What this is going to do is punish you if you make errors. So for example, if your pause is resultant from you ending up pulling the bar back to you, you're going to find that this exercise punishes you for not pulling the bar straight up, or it punishes improper starting positions. So give those recommendations a go, Barry. Check your active straight leg raise, check your RDL technique, which I've already got videos for, and mess around, have a play about with pause deadlifts. So you're going to use a weight that's a lot lighter, so something that is no heavier than a 7 out of 10 difficulty, so something you could do 3 or more reps with, and give that a go for a few weeks and let me know how you get on.